All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. After a long delay, welcome back. It's 2022 now. New year, new show. Still just same guys here talking, having a great time, talking big ideas, and we're going to continue it into 2022. So let's kick it off. Topic today, I want to talk about role models, mentors, the idea of other people that you're modeling your life after, especially when you're really young. I want to share a couple personal thoughts on this and turn it over to you, Ljupco, to get your thoughts on this. But when I was first starting out, I felt like there were always a handful of people that I was looking up to, and a lot of those people, I used to hang out with a lot of older people when I was in high school and college. I always hung out with people that are a few years older than me, but I felt like I didn't take advantage of a really cool opportunity in high school and college as much as I could have to go out and find people who were already doing things that I was interested in. And instead, I felt like I limited myself sort of to the sphere of influence that I was in. Definitely had some good role models in my teenage years, like my dad, some of the teachers, coaches, people at church and stuff like that. But I was interested in a lot of things, and I didn't take an opportunity to go seek out mentors on specific things that I was interested in. And when I look back on my life, a few things that I might have actually done differently is go and try and find the people that are doing something that I was already interested in, that I wanted to learn more about, and at least try to be valuable to them, try and learn as much as I can about the thing I'm interested in from that person, so that I could get a little bit farther ahead in validating, who I wanted to be, what types of things I wanted to work on. That's where I think one of the biggest value adds for mentors, role models are for young adults is getting a little bit of an insider take on sort of the different paths you might be considering. Tons of other valuable reasons why, but that was one thing that, as we're talking about topics to talk about today, and I was thinking about this one, that was one thing that jumped out to me that I could have gotten more value out of as my teen. Flip it back over to you, though. What's your take? Role models?
Yeah, my take. Honestly, I want to kind of hone in on when I think of role models, right? We have role models that we could access role models essentially from books too. Even that's kind of one source, right? Then you have virtual role models, with the internet. Now you could just connect with. You could have masterminds, mastermind groups on Zoom and stuff, and then that one-on-one connection that that you could have with somebody. And I think all three are very significantly different. When I was shadowing, when I look back at my work experience, one role model that I had in particular that I worked with on a day-to-day basis, when you are in contact with somebody, literally physically, it's almost you even pick up their mannerisms, how they talk, how they communicate, what they habits, what they like, what they don't like. In the car business, the first thing they tell you is go shadow this guy. Just don't even say a word. Just see what he does. And you pick up the way they walk and talk and all this other stuff, right? So I guess the way I'm looking at it, I'm kind of just contrasting the different types of role models that I have, right? When I have several different mastermind groups I'm a part of. When I'm in those groups, it's I'm not picking up mannerisms. It's almost like I'm connecting on a conscious, or I'm connecting on a different level with them almost in that environment. And then the third one, historical figures or books and that type of stuff. That's almost wisdom. It's they're all three very different experiences, but I would say I bring this all up because I think they all are mentors in one form or another. What do you what's your take on the way I view it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're right. And some color that I want to add. So the thing about books, one, easy, accessible, affordable, anybody can access this, and you can tap into literally the most brilliant minds that have ever walked on the face of the planet. You can go tap into their thoughts, their points of view, hypotheses they had about the way the world is. That's why I love to read memoirs in particular, though, is it's not just somebody extrapolating their grand philosophy. It's this is me either an autobiography or somebody else retelling. this is how somebody went about their life and all the challenges they had to overcome. And it's almost those, so it's like that wisdom packaged in stories that I think are really, really useful templates, as sort of like, one-sided role models. The limitation of books, though, that can be challenging is they can't talk back. Like, you can't ask a book a question and then like get them to give you some insights. You kind of have to read between the lines and interpret it. And that's where having some type of access to a living mentor. And again, like, I'm not really big on like direct mentorship where you're like taking up somebody's time to talk about your life. And I've worked with coaches in the past and it's been useful. But I think, one of the things that I really like in terms of like the one-on-one thing is when you have somebody who knows what you're trying to do, that you are sort of shadowing. And this could be at various stages in your career. It doesn't always have to be when you're first starting out. It could be you moving into a different field, is finding somebody who knows the ropes that you can, what you're talking about, you can pick up those mannerisms, but like you can gain, you can accelerate the acquisition of specific knowledge. Like early in my career, when I was apprenticing the CEO of a fast growing company, I knew I wanted to start my own business someday. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know the first damn thing about like starting a business, growing a business, what business, all of that stuff. And I had big ideas, I'd worked several jobs, but like there was so much of what I picked up from that I just had no idea. And then, now being in the seat of actually being an entrepreneur, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned so much, but there was so much more that I just didn't even understand until I was in the same seat. But now that a lot of those things are like, wow, those lessons are cemented now and I can still carry them with me. And that's one of the most powerful, I think, forms of sort of the direct one-on-one, is that sort of apprenticeship capacity. This is why I love what we're building so much at Praxis, is like helping people, plug into opportunities where they can be around other experts, early on in their career at cool companies, competent people to then learn from. The last one that I want to touch on that you brought up is like sort of this mastermind group or social media or online. So I'm not big on mastermind groups personally, but I love sort of the spontaneous interaction of people who are interested in the same thing. So like real estate Twitter is one of my favorite like recent online communities, niche communities to break into. Like I'll listen to bigger podcast. I've played around in their like online community or whatever, but like online real estate or like hustling small business, cash flowing business, like wealth building people on Twitter that are like, yeah, I'm not building a tech company, but like I care about building wealth. And people are like breaking down deals all the time. And they're like writing these really valuable threads. And I'm reading them and I feel like I'm getting an MBA from reading them. And, I engage when I have something meaningful to contribute, but it's just not very often because some of these people are experts and I feel like a neophyte. Like I don't know a ton. But it's like, I feel like my vocabulary, my instincts, a lot of just knowledge I've gained just from like participating in those conversations or being a passive observer from people who are already kind of like talking about things you're interested in. That's like literally anybody with Wi-Fi can access those types of communities online.
Yeah, Wi-Fi and half a brain, right? You know what's funny? When you mentioned those groups, the first thing I thought of was Wall Street Bets. Those. Oh yeah, those idiots that like get together. I think they like this time last year the GameStop stock like went crazy, right? They shut down Robinhood, bro.
Yeah,
that's what I think of. Like I don't know. Like there's so many you could. For sure, there's people breaking down deals, but it's something as simple as like, dude, we're going to run up this stock, right? Yeah. I think you brought up, before we started this, you brought up like role models versus anti-role models, right? Yeah. And I like how you added that duality because I think life is all about duality. Yep. I think there's masculine, feminine, there's, left, right, potato. Now, like I want to touch base on the, like, I guess the anti-role model aspect of things. And I think what comes to mind first when you brought that up is like you can learn from how I interpreted anti-role model. Like you can learn from people's like mistakes and F-ups too. essentially, right?
absolutely.
Like don't do drugs, kids. Okay, but like if you have a family member that's an alcoholic or something,
Yeah.
like okay, now you know, like dude, don't like just don't get addicted to whatever. I'm just using a micro example, but like in big examples as well, you always hear of business owners. They're doing they end up in jail because they do something stupid, and it's taxes, there's fraud, and this and that. There's a lot to learn. I think that's more valuable. I think people learn from failures way more. A lot of people learn from a bankruptcy a lot more than winning the lottery for 100 million.
Yeah.
And I want to get your perspective. How do you look at like anti-role models, and has that played a big part in your success?
Yeah. So there are a few different kind of points I want to touch on. And one of the first things you brought up, this idea of like being able to learn from people who maybe did make mistakes. So one thing that I think is a really useful skill when you're early on, the earlier you can learn this, the better is kind of like not the tendency to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater when you see somebody who makes a mistake, or, you see the CEO that's going to jail, or, you see like Bill Belichick get wound up in some Deflategate scandal or whatever. And you see these people who are, they've reached a tremendous amount of, atypical success, and then some type of thing surrounds them. And I think that there's this tendency to be like, write off anybody that like gets associated with controversy whatsoever. And I think that don't do that. You can write off you can hate don't hate the player, hate the game. Like you can right. Isolate sort of the bad decisions, or don't isolate the things you can learn from them, and learn from those things that are actually useful without like becoming the bad version of whatever that thing is played out. So that's one side of it. Right. That's one way that it can be useful, is you can still learn from people even if you don't like them, even if you don't want to become like them. You don't want to become them. I think one of the most direct examples of anti-role models that I think of are identifying specific behaviors or tendencies in people that you absolutely do not want to become, or you do not want in your life. And so you mentioned like the alcoholic family member, or you got the drug using family member or something like that, or you have a distant friend or something like that. And you see kind of how choices play out in someone's life. Yep. And outcomes you want to specifically avoid in your life. Like, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to, be a person who's unreliable. I don't want to be, I don't want any substance or something to have power over me. I should, I see how this is impacting somebody else's life. I want to avoid those things. But I think that it doesn't always have to be extreme examples like this. I know that in my professional career, there have been so many people that I've interacted with, both colleagues, vendors, customers, people I've sort of professional acquaintances, where sometimes it's just like, I really don't like that person. Like I think back to, I was having a professional lunch one time, and this one person was saying a lot of like really just distasteful things at a lunch. And I was just like immediately like, one, I don't want to be like this person. Two, I don't want to be near this person. I don't want to associate with them. But it's sometimes those specific behaviors that when you see them, it's like, I want to make sure I do everything in my power to not become like that, because that's not a behavior that I think is like in line with who I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the very last point you brought up, like who you want to be, is that how you find? Because you could find a mentor for anything, dude. Like you could, like, especially now, it's like it's mad easy because of the internet and LinkedIn and this and that. Like, I guess is that how you would recommend people approach finding mentors and like people they could look up to? Like, base it around what you like and what you want to become, essentially. Is that right? Is that fair to say?
I would say that's part of it. The thing that I'd want to really get across, if you're a young person, young professional, and you actually are craving mentorship, is like, be aware of the cost of other people's time, and not just their time, like their emotions, their intellectual bandwidth. Like when you are going and approaching, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I take you to coffee for 15 minutes or whatever? Like most people aren't interested in that. They don't care. Like that's a waste of their time. It's a drain on their energy. Now it's like you're one more kind of ask or demand on their resources among the like 1,500 other things that are in their inbox on their to-do list that are competing for their time and energy and resources, let alone like they got families, they got all this other stuff going on. And so what I would say is a better way to do it is one, find sort of the first degree, like people that you can observe that you don't necessarily have to like have a direct, back and forth, two-way dialogue with. Learn as much as you can from sort of observation. And two, anytime there is somebody who has sort of specific knowledge or expertise that you want, figure out how to be valuable to them first. Don't just go demand or make an ask of their time. Like you are withdrawing social capital from somebody that you don't have a right to yet. Like you haven't built up any value to them. And so if you can find a way to be valuable to people who are already doing stuff that excites the hell out of you, like that's going to end up paying dividends more than just the 15 minutes of advice they might be able to give them to, because now you've built a relationship. It's not just a transaction. Like if you really care about somebody's, the insights that they can offer, you really care about their work that they're doing, like you'll want to participate. You'll want to see them succeed. And then they'll, in turn, they'll want to help you out as much as they can too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some key takeaways I got, Mitchell, is number one, be cautious of their time, right?
Yeah.
Of whoever is spending time or investing in you, right? I think that is a profound point. Even when I first started in my career, obviously you need a lot of mentors, right? Like I would, just to get time with the person I was mentoring, like I would make sure I bring him coffee, or I would make sure that like at one point his brother was working with us. So I go pick up his brother. Like I would make sure that I just show as much appreciation as I can. Right. Number two, the duality of anti-role models and role models. Take away the nuggets from the anti-role models as well. Right.
Yeah.
And then number three, I guess, just the different types of mentorship you can have. So like you said, whether it's the social media groups that you mentioned with the real estate Twitter, right? And then that's obviously a much different though than if you like literally are observing someone or mentoring them, like in your direct first degree connections, right?
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts or anything you would want to add to that?
This is one small one. It's such a small thing, but like I messed this up early in my career several times, and I look back and like sometimes I got it right, but this is like such a small thing. If you do invite somebody out to lunch, or you invite somebody out to drinks or whatever, and you're the one who initiates this and you're like trying to get advice or mentorship or counseling or whatever, like pick up the tab. Don't let them do that, dude. Like it's such a small like social faux pas to not do that. But looking back at, like usually when you're like taking somebody out to lunch and they're farther along in life than you anyway, like they're going to be generous and they're going to like want to do that. And I want to be able to do that when I'm, in my career too, is like help people that haven't quite gotten to the point. But like, if you're the one who's initiating it, like you got to at least offer, cause you're taking somebody else's time. It's like the small little, like, it's like the same thing as writing a handwritten thank you note. Like it's those little things that really make you stand out, or they make you look like kind of an idiot. So, dude,
absolutely. It's the disrespect. Like you're gonna, like you're investing in somebody. Like it's such a small little detail, right? Just appreciation and gratitude, right?
That's the last point. So this has been another episode of the Deliberate Dropout. We will be back again soon with more wisdom, knowledge, and advice for how to get ahead in life if you are just starting out or you're dropping out of college. So you like this episode, hit subscribe, leave us a review, leave us a comment if watching on YouTube. We'll be back again soon.